A commercial passenger bus approaches an international port of entry, carrying a full manifest of passengers, finding its path abruptly blocked at the final threshold. Right now, South Africa is intensifying its efforts to repatriate undocumented foreign nationals to neighboring countries. To execute these large-scale movements, the government relies heavily on private contracted commercial transport fleets to physically move individuals across the border. Looking at the sheer volume of commercial trucks and pedestrian traffic here at the Bait Bridge Border Control, the complexity of these operations is obvious. Operators are successfully securing these lucrative government contracts and ensuring every piece of passenger paperwork is in order, yet their vehicles are still facing impoundment or forced returns at the gate. Holding a government mandate to transport people does not grant a commercial operator an exemption from international transport law. This disruption stems from a dangerous industry assumption, the idea that clearing the passengers guarantees clearance for the vehicle. We can call this the immigration fallacy. Examining this queue of individuals waiting for processing, it's entirely logical that logistics managers concentrate their resources on the complex human element of their cargo. However, border authorities conduct two completely independent verifications. One audit is performed on the passengers, and a distinctly separate audit is performed on the commercial entity moving them. These sudden operational halts frequently trace back to a specific regulatory requirement: temporary cross-border road transport documentation, commonly known as TCR. Approaching an international boundary solely as an immigration checkpoint, rather than a dual immigration and transport checkpoint, guarantees a logistical failure. To successfully cross a southern African border, operators must satisfy two authorities simultaneously. The Immigration Authority focuses on passenger manifests and passports. Meanwhile, the Transport Authority evaluates the physical vehicle. This transport compliance is a rigorous legal obligation for the fleet. In the rush to organize large-scale repatriation logistics, fleet managers frequently overlook this secondary transport audit. A perfectly approved passenger profile in the immigration column cannot override a failure in the transport column. Both conditions must be met to proceed. Looking at the profile of these commercial passenger buses, we can build the exact transport compliance checklist required for entry. This schematic breaks down the transport permits. The driver needs a valid license and professional driving permit. The wheels and chassis require roadworthy certification and a vehicle license. The cabin requires insurance, and the dashboard must hold cross-border and TCR documentation. Border officials enforce a strict administrative standard. Original physical copies of these documents must be available for immediate inspection. Compliance managers are required to validate every single piece of this paperwork before the vehicle leaves the depot. The TCR framework operates as an interlocking chain of permits. A single missing document invalidates the entire legal authority to travel. Historically, immigration and transport authorities operated in isolated analog silos, which occasionally allowed operators to slip through with incomplete documentation. Today, Southern African governments have systematically replaced that outdated analog model with fully integrated, real-time digital border management systems. The Transport Regulator and Immigration Department now share databases in real time, funneling into a central border control hub. If a vehicle lacks a valid TCR, the transport database flags the system instantly, immediately overriding any passenger immigration clearances. That system flag triggers administrative enforcement, severe operational delays, and formal refusal of entry. Digitization removes any margin for error. Transport infractions can no longer be bypassed while officials are focused on processing people. To measure the bottom-line threat, we can plot regulatory non-compliance on a risk matrix. A forced return immediately lands in the highest impact quadrant, causing unrecoverable staffing expenses, triggering costly delays, scheduling failures, contractual disruptions, and increased regulatory scrutiny on future border crossings. Failing a transport compliance check transforms a lucrative government logistics contract into a massive financial liability. Maintaining rigorous regulatory standards has become the primary barrier to entry in the modern Southern African logistics sector. This documentation process functions as a frontline risk management barrier that dictates whether a business can fulfill its contractual obligations. Mastering this dual-layer framework ensures that fleets maintain seamless, uninterrupted transit across international lines, securing long-term business continuity and operational success. Government contractors, fleet owners, and compliance managers carry the complete responsibility to verify every statutory permit before departure. In cross-border repatriation logistics, bulletproof TCR documentation is the sole determining factor between a profitable deployment and an avoidable return journey.